Have you ever noticed how the price of your morning coffee or a new piece of furniture can suddenly jump, seemingly without warning? It often feels like a ripple effect, starting somewhere far away and eventually hitting your wallet. This phenomenon is a classic example of how fundamental economic forces shape our everyday lives. Increased raw material prices definitely fuel inflation. This occurs because raw materials are essential inputs for producing almost all goods and services. When the cost of these foundational components rises, businesses face higher production expenses, which they then pass on to consumers in the form of higher retail prices. The core mechanism behind this is known as cost-push inflation. Think of it as a domino effect. If the cost of crude oil increases, it impacts transportation expenses for nearly every industry. Manufacturers also pay more for plastics, chemicals, and energy to run their factories. These higher production costs reduce the supply of goods at existing price levels, or requiring higher prices to maintain profitability. Since consumers are still demanding these products, the upward pressure on prices becomes widespread across the economy. Businesses typically handle rising input costs by first trying to absorb some of the increase or find efficiencies. However, beyond a certain point, they must adjust their pricing strategies. This often involves recalibrating their cost of goods sold calculations and setting new retail prices that reflected the new, higher input costs. Consumers then experience this as a general rise in the price level for a basket of goods and services, which is the very definition of inflation. Understanding the difference between a temporary price hike and sustained inflationary pressure is key. Economists look for broad-based and persistent increases in prices. For instance, a temporary drought affecting a single crop might cause its price to spike, but if a global energy crisis drives up the cost of farming, manufacturing, and transport across many sectors, that signals a more pervasive cost-push inflation scenario. This distinction between specific price volatility and general price level changes is critical for accurate economic analysis. Ultimately, recognizing how raw material price increases translate into consumer inflation empowers us to better comprehend macroeconomic trends. It highlights the interconnectedness of global supply chains and production processes. This knowledge helps us appreciate why economists closely monitor commodity markets and other key input costs, as they are often leading indicators of broader inflationary movements, directly influencing purchasing power and economic stability for everyone.